Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of that Star Trek podcast, your unofficial place for all things Trek. My name is Sean Ray, and I'd like to think of the show as kind of a post-episode decontamination chamber, except we keep our clothes on and there's no jail. So tonight we will be discussing Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 6, which was titled Scavengers, written by Ann Cofield Saunders and directed by Douglas Aronofsky. There you go, Aronofsky. After receiving a message from Book, Burnham and Georgiou embark on a rogue mission to find him, leaving Saru to pick up the pieces with Admiral Vance. Meanwhile, Stamets forms an unexpected bond with Adira. And joining me tonight on the program, we have our special guest. Joined us once last season, and she's back from Trek Geeks and Trek FM and the Fandom Podcast Network. We've got Haley. How's it going?
Going well. It's cold, and I want snow. But doing good.
What part of the country are you in?
I'm in the Gamma Quadrant, also known as Idaho. No, not Iowa. Idaho. Potatoes, people. Potatoes.
Right. And we also have Rick. How's it going, sir?
Do we really need all this?
Probably not.
Okay, my alternate one was, I think Grudge is a Flurkin. Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
Could be. And John and Virginia are going to be joining us eventually sometime during the show, so I'll keep an eye out for them. And but we're going to talk about episode 6. So Haley, I like to give our guests a minute to kind of tell us what they've thought about the season so far. So what have you liked or not liked about season 3 of Discovery so far?
So far, I'm actually really enjoying Discovery Season 3. I like the direction that they've gone. It's lighter, not only visually, but with the scripts. And I'm enjoying the humor that they've added in. And the character development that we're getting so far is really well. And while Burnham is still the lead and still the main character, I feel like we're getting more of everybody else, which I had Burnham burnout after season 2, so I'm really glad about that.
Yeah. What did you think about this episode in particular?
This one was kind of interesting. I think so far of what we've seen, this is not kind of my favorite. It's actually down on the bottom as far as it goes, but there was definitely some stuff in here that I'm kind of intrigued about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Rick?
I'm kind of in the same boat. It's kind of like the Western one. I don't remember the title of it, but almost everything that happened on Discovery itself and in Starfleet Command, I loved. Almost everything that happened on the planet was so trite and so been there before on every other damn sci-fi show ever made that I just, watching it again tonight was a slog. And I don't like to have to say that about Star Trek, especially Discovery, because it's been so great. But when they dive into the banal end of the pool, they go head first. And this one just did not. I mean, there were parts of it that I really loved, and yeah, I think Michael really. I love Michael. I love Sonequa Martin Green, but there are parts of her character that are just kind of really rubbing me the wrong way right now.
Yeah, we'll get into that. You know what? I liked the actiony part of the episode. Shades of Mandalorian. I thought there was a lot going on. I will give you that. There was a lot going on. It could get confusing. I had to watch it twice, but I enjoyed it.
I wasn't confused, but I'll tell you that I liked it a lot better when Stargate SG-1 did it in their 4th season.
Yeah.
See, and we're watching that, and it's really funny how much is like, oh, we've seen stuff like that in Star Trek already.
Mm-hmm. And that was the problem, is that Stargate was riffing on Star Trek all the time, and it was just kind of funny to go, oh, I know where that, and they did, but to see Star Trek going down the road that they'd paved before that other groups copied them on it. It's like, you guys can do better than this.
I think there's certain sci-fi tropes that like everybody just kind of hits. And you have to touch on it, but how you do it is different for the different shows. But there's like the overall kind of core storyline is the same.
Somebody wants to say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Sharon. How are
This
you?
is Haley. You haven't met Haley yet.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay, do you have anything you actually want to say, or are you just poking your head in?
Peck.
Okay, Peck, go watch Richie Rich.
Bye bye.
Bye. So we've talked about in the past that this season of Discovery is kind of a soft reboot of the series, and I almost think that a lot of the stuff that happened in this episode was just to remind people that may not have watched the first two seasons, because a lot of people may have started with the season. They have to remind everybody that Michael's not exactly a by the book kind of girl, and she disobeys orders, quite a bit, and that's what a lot of this episode was about. Those of us that have watched the first three seasons, the first two seasons, are not surprised by it, but I was disappointed in it this time, because I'm gonna just like what Rick said. I love Sonequa Martin Green. I love Michael. I love this character. But at the same time, she's the heroine of the show. But at the same time, she's not a very good Starfleet officer. Because even if her hunches are right, the majority of the time, if you can't follow orders, she started a war because she couldn't follow orders, and she's still falling into that, which I kind of think by the end of this season she may not be on Discovery. I don't know that that'll be a permanent thing, but she may go off and be a courier.
I don't think you're wrong, but I don't think it's going to be like the season cliffhanger. I think that's going to happen in the next episode or two, and then they're going to wrap that up again by the end of the season.
That's a possibility. She definitely has something to her character that is not very Starfleet, where she continues to not follow orders. And it's more than just question orders, because officers have always kind of done that in Star Trek. But she really is just like, no, I don't think so. And it almost makes me wonder why she would have joined Starfleet in the first place if she doesn't feel that orders should be followed. And she follows them 99% of the time, but the 1% of the time that she doesn't, it really causes problems, as we've seen so far. And so it's just like, okay, wait, you can't follow all the little ones and all these minor things and not follow the big ones. That's a really kind of a character flaw that doesn't really indicate good Starfleet officers, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can't say we are Starfleet and then not be Starfleet.
Yeah.
There's something I want to read to y'all, because I've been kind of bitching online about this episode ever since it aired. Yes, the Bucks just scored. I put out a post on Facebook, and I was just like, why the hell is Saru shocked that Burnham went off on her own? And my friend Kirsten, and she gave me permission to quote this. She replied. Now she's a social worker, but she also was an explosive ordnance disposal person in the Army. So she's got this really interesting perspective on the world. And she said, I think he's been giving her the chance to recognize that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, which she is struggling to do. She thinks she is thinking about everyone other than herself, but she really isn't. She loves the crew immensely, obviously, but she doesn't trust anyone's judgment but her own, and that's a problem. I think Saru wants her to come to terms with her own self-destructive behavior that is going to drag the rest of the crew down with her, because they will never abandon her. He wants her to come to grips with the fact that the ends don't justify the means. She just isn't getting the message. This disappoints him immensely, but he truly cares for and respects her and desperately wants to believe she will make the right choice this time.
That's
was like,
very well put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he kind of had that discussion with her last week. You know, I would have thought you would have learned this lesson by now. You know, and also I thought it was kind of strange. I mean, I understand why it happened because the crew of the Discovery, while there is a hierarchy as far as rank and everything, they seem a lot more relaxed with some of that. You know, because Saru is going to Tilly for counsel on what to do about his first officer. And you know, she's an ensign. She was a cadet just, you know, not long ago. And but you know, to Tilly's credit, she's like, you know what, you need to tell the Admiral, you know, I know Michael's my best friend, but yeah, she's gonna get us all in trouble.
Let me ask you guys, do you think we're setting up they're teeing up First Officer Tilly?
I considered it, and then I kind of thought, I don't think quite yet.
I don't think she's ready for that.
I've been kind of on the fence about that too. It seems, but yeah, she is still an ensign.
I think she might very well get a promotion, but I don't see that she's going to become first officer. I mean, to go from an ensign to a commander, full commander, that's quite a leap in rank. And so I don't see that happening. I think that she definitely will get a promotion and continue to kind of work with Saru, but
I could see her becoming
and he was part of you know, Cadet Kirk becomes Captain Kirk, so
that's true. I could see her becoming if Michael doesn't straighten up, I could see Tilly becoming chief science officer pretty soon.
Yeah.
So the Discovery got some upgrades, and okay, so I wrote this down. Updated internal systems, programmable matter, and detached nacelles to improve maneuverability and performance. I was the first one in our group to notice that an A had been added to the registry number, and I sent a message to everyone saying, "In your face," because I felt, and I still do to an extent, that it confirmed my theory that the Voyager J was the Voyager. But
you are so fucking wrong.
I'm conceding the argument. Because so I tweeted at Doug Jones this week, and I actually sent the same thing to Alex Kurtzman, but he never responded. But I said, I need you to settle a bet. So in Die Trying, we saw Voyager J, and I say it's the same ship from Star Trek Voyager, and my friends think it's just the namesake. Who is right? And he responded that I think Tilly said that it's like the 10th generation or something, meaning it might have been passed down to newer vessels, which, yeah, I think that was kind of a polite way of saying, I don't know what the combination was. You know, so.
Well,
so
and if you guys also noticed, did you notice that the color is different? Discovery is no longer the brown anymore. It's like the gray,
blue, like everything
silvery color, like every other ship. I was like, why can't it have stayed the same? It doesn't make any sense, but I guess, you know, if you want to make sure that it fits in with everything else, you better change the color too.
And argument
I'm that nitpicky a-hole who really had a problem with the A, but I don't remember if it was on Camp Kittimer or maybe it was on the Star Trek Design Facebook page. But somebody pointed out that the A is probably there to maintain the fiction that the Discovery was, as the records show, destroyed, and that this is a new ship bearing the same name, so it's the Discovery A. And I was like, that's a headcanon I can live with. Thank you very much.
I would agree with that sentiment, just because, again, with the fact that they also changed the color of the ship, they have to make it look like it's, you know, something down the line from like the original, and it's not the original, just because it's too dangerous. The fact that it's got all this dilithium and everything else and the spore drive, you know, they got to kind of protect it. So that would make sense to me too.
Yeah. I don't need a lot to accept stuff, but you know, like, Brendan doesn't love the detached nacelles. I don't
get it. I don't understand that either. I'm not gonna lie.
I understand. I mean, you just need the nacelles to create a warp bubble, right? So they I don't guess they have to be attached to the ship for that to happen.
But
I just don't understand how
yeah.
But we don't
Well,
know
I
how
mean-
we don't know how the warp drives work in this new future because they don't use dilithium, so we don't really know how they work.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, no. This thing doesn't make any sense to me. So like they're programmable matter nacelles. So then they detached the actual nacelles, but then they're still sitting there next to the ship. And I'm just like, I don't understand this. Like, why not just leave the actual ones there? Why do you have to? I mean, maybe so that, ships don't go after it, like the Emerald Chain doesn't go after it for its dilithium or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever at this point, and I really want to get that. But I also, the dilithium, I'm intrigued by this because, at one point we hear real dilithium. And so I'm thinking, is all the dilithium they have like synthetic dilithium? Like it's not real? Because the Ryan was like, oh, you have real dilithium? And I'm like, what? Okay, wait, now what? Now what's going on?
My theory on the detached nacelles is somebody in the design staff really hates Eagle Moss and wants to see them cope with this.
It's going to throw the balance off. I don't know.
Okay, I was going to kind of bring this up later, but this is as good a time as any. I have a really bad feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, but I have a really bad feeling between all of the changes to Discovery and the song everybody knows that we're in some other alternate reality, and there's a big reset button coming at the end of the season.
I don't know about that. But
I hope I'm wrong because I hate that kind of stuff. But
one thing that I noticed is that all these upgrades that Discovery is getting, Discovery didn't have any of those in Calypso. Discovery didn't have detached nacelles and didn't have an A. It was just NCC 1031 and all that. So if we're building towards that still being in the future, I don't know.
We don't know that.
Yeah, I think those are just
that
kind of like a possibility. I don't think it necessarily is going to happen, but it was a possibility of it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that would be an alternate timeline, I guess.
Well, the thing is, Discovery, Zora said in Calypso that she had been alone for 1,000 years. Discovery just jumped 930 years into the future, but the ship wasn't left by it. It wasn't like the crew went ahead and the ship stayed behind. So all of this, the physical changes to Discovery don't jibe with what we saw in Calypso, but we don't know where in any timeline Calypso is. It could still be, 1,000 years down the road, or they could just go, it was like the tardigrade and the robot. It was a fun episode, but it didn't really happen, quote unquote. Like the trouble with George or whatever.
Could Zora be from the mirror universe? Giorgio's seeing a lot of flashes back to the mirror universe. The Terran universe is gonna crop up eventually. Something's got to give there.
No, I don't think so.
They're building towards something there.
I think there is definitely something there, and I wonder if a lot of it is, we don't know the rest of that conversation that she had with what I was pretty sure was a psychiatrist, and so who knows what he kind of said to her or potentially implanted in her to study her, and kind of learn from her, maybe alter her brain so that she's not so homicidal and revenge driven and whatnot, to kind of make her fit in. And he did say that the divide between the universe and the Terran, the mirror universe, had increased so much that there hadn't been a crossing in like 500 years. Right. So I don't think necessarily that it's going to come back. I think we just might get more to her kind of backstory, which I feel like they're shoehorning in, but it's okay.
Yeah, I feel like he had to have done something to her because she wasn't having these flashes until after she talked to him. Brandon says every 1,000 years the Federation has to crumble.
Has anyone from the mirror universe spent as much time in our universe as Giorgio has?
Not on screen.
No.
because we don't know how long Lorca was on that mirror Lorca was on Discovery. So
Yeah.
maybe it's just a matter of, and there's plenty of precedent in Star Trek for this, that you can't stay in the alternate universe for any longer than a certain amount of time without it affecting you.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
At first I thought she was having flashbacks to Prime Giorgio's death, and then I realized no, she's having flashbacks to her Michael's death, and I think we're seeing that she killed her Michael.
Could be. And she
Mhm.
has referenced alternate Michael a couple of times.
Yeah.
Well, they also got state-of-the-art comm badges that featured integrated holopads, tricorders, communicators, and personal transporters. And going back to the theory of subterfuge with the Discovery, and that being why they put the A on there, they should probably do something about those uniforms if that's
Yeah,
if
they
that's
should be
the
wearing
case.
yeah.
I kind of like
We're
that
wearing
they
these-
still kept the original uniforms though.
We're wearing these 1,000-year-old uniforms, but
Well-
I like how the communicators are kind of like our cell phones have replaced so many devices that we used in the 80s and the 90s, and now their communicator can do. It's their tricorder, it's their transporter. I think it's
forever
kind
be
of
doing the
weird.
wrong one.
Yeah. I think it's kind of weird that they're going to use their transporter, but they still walk towards the door. Like Saru walks towards the door and then transports out. I'm like, why are you pretending like you're going to walk through the door?
Because he probably hasn't gotten used to it yet.
Yeah.
It's habit.
Now,
Hard to break those.
Okay, I just lost what I was going to say. I've mentioned this on the show before, but I think it bears mentioning now because we're really seeing it coming to fruition. There has been a lot of talk over the years before Discovery started. Well, actually even since Discovery started, about why do they keep going backwards? Why do they keep doing prequels? Why don't we go into Star Trek post Nemesis? And one of the main reasons I've seen talked about by producers and writers is that once you get too far into the future, making the tech seem futuristic without it becoming magical becomes almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Clark's Law, any sufficiently advanced technology will be indistinguishable from magic. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing them, and we keep hearing, okay, this little comm badge, 3 inches, does everything. And everyone's like, oh, geez, no, it doesn't. How can it? And I'm in the same way. I'm like, what else are they going to cram into that thing? But the writers are up against this impossible situation of making the tech seem so much more advanced than what we saw in TNG and Voyager and DS9, yet not make it so that the tech is so omnipotent that it can solve every problem. And that's the razor's edge they have to walk. And that's why there's been so much reluctance to go this far into the future. And I think we kind of need to, as fans, we need to kind of give them a bit of a break on this.
I think it's also... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's also opening the door for shortcuts with writing, because now when you get ready to go to a planet, you don't have to write into the script, oh, let's go to the transporter room and then go to the planet. You can just go there, and you don't have to write into the script that the doctor scans somebody with the tricorder. They just walk into the room, and we know how many people are there. We know what species this is. We know that this person has a broken leg or something like that because my communicator just told me, Hi.
Yeah.
You've got them trained well.
No, I think, it's interesting that, we have this discussion because Star Trek has kind of always pushed actual science. It's our cell phones, the communicators led to our cell phones in some fashion, whether deliberate or not. And, the pads they had are tablets that we have now. And so much of that has pushed kind of the science and actual tech. And I think there is a degree of, okay, well, really, could your badge do all this stuff? That's a very good possibility, that we could have something smaller that does numerous things. I don't like the hand gesture thing that they have to do certain hand gestures to get certain things. I like that, they tap it and that's how personal transporter works. and they actually have to communicate like what room they can tap at once, and they can program where it is that they need to go and then tap it, and then that's how they go, kind of thing. But all this other stuff, that's a good possibility that someday we could have something similar to that. The programmable matter, I'm kind of a little iffy on. That's definitely, I think, something that I don't know, potentially could happen, but I think that's a little more far-fetched. But this notion that their comm badge does numerous things kind of seems potentially plausible at some point.
If you were to take a modern cell phone, a smartphone, back to 1980 and say, look, it would be like,
oh my
sorcery.
Yes.
All right.
I have to, okay. To really quick, this is for Scott, because I'm sure he noticed it, and I would be almost positive very few other people did. There was a Miranda class starship in the sky over.
I saw it.
You're awesome.
I was like, hey, wait, that looks like the NX-01.
And self-sealing stem bolts got a call out. So
yeah, I've got that in my notes. And also when the admiral was meeting with all of the captains, he brought up a list of planets. I guess planets that they're still able to communicate with, and Beta Z was on there, Ferenginar, Cardassia Prime.
I kept trying to pause on my computer. If I pause CBS All Access, it minimizes the damn screen automatically.
Yeah, I found a couple
so
of screenshots. Let's see. I found a couple of screenshots. Let's see. I've got the list here somewhere. Let me find it. I know Ferenginar, Beta Z. Here we go. Ferenginar, Beta Z.
Kazon mentioned last week in the readout.
Talos, Cardassia Prime, Bajor, Trill, Orion, and Andoria. There were some others, but those were the ones that were readable on the screenshot.
Talos, interesting.
Well, there was a Bajoran down on the planet when we
and they mentioned the Bajoran.
I was like, oh, hey, look at that. That's interesting. So
and there's a little bit of they mentioned the Bajoran exchange, and there was like a little bit of fan theory that may be Deep Space Nine, because Deep Space Nine is close to Bajor, so that may be the Bajoran exchange. That may be what it's being called now, or something. I don't know.
Fascinating.
But I doubt we're gonna see it. I doubt we're gonna go there. But
okay, check me on this, and and I think Tilly would so be a cat person. I know it's a nitpick, but I think Tilly would be totally a cat person.
Well, yeah, but even cat people, there's certain cats that you just might just not be that cat.
I could see her actually being more of a dog person, given her personality. Having a dog that has a hyperactive personality would match. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
She doesn't like being the most high-strung person in the room.
The Andorian friend of books that got in the way of the shot that he saved book. I was kind of confused at first because his antennas have been cut off, and I was confused at first because we know in Enterprise that and Andorian's antennas can grow back, and then I saw a close up of him, and the ends, they had burned the ends, so I guess his antennas weren't going to grow back at all. But he was kind of an interesting character. He didn't die in the episode, did he? I know he got shot.
We'll see him again. He was
about to say, I'd like to see them build on that a little bit. And then I've got that Giorgio bullies that Orion guy that's kind of the boss of the labor camp, and then he kind of proves to be just as evil as she is, and you can see on her face that kind of made her a little nervous when he basically blew that guy's head off, and but she still kept up the act, and she
I gotta say, I have not been liking Giorgio this season except for this episode. One of the things I really liked about this episode is I enjoyed her in this.
Yeah,
she was in her element, and I know that Michelle Yeoh is having a blast playing Giorgio.
Yeah.
I don't always like the character. I preferred Prime Giorgio over Empress Giorgio or Emperor Giorgio. But it's very clear that both the writers and Michelle Yeoh are having a ball with this character. And every now and then that bleeds through. And this episode was it was so much fun watching her.
Yeah. I like Giorgio. I like every time she's on screen. I think she's hilarious because she brings something to the scene. I mean, it can be a serious scene, and she is essentially an evil character that's just living among good people. and she always brings some one-liners to the, a lot of the times my sign off at the end of the show is a one-liner that she said, so. And then I've got on here about the self-sealing stem bolts, which in Star Trek and Deep Space Nine they were mentioned a few times, but nobody ever really explained what they were. So it's kind of cool that they just threw them in here. We don't have to explain what they are. They just and we've heard of them.
There is a graphic in the encyclopedia of a self-sealing stem bolt.
So let's talk a little bit about Stamets and his getting closer with Adira. So I like that he just, Stamets. I like Stamets. Stamets is an asshole, but he can't be that to Adira. It's like it's not in his. He can't be mean to her. It's just not something that he can do. He can't physically do it. And so he walks in and he sees her talking to herself, and just immediately, all the stuff that he's gone through, that's not weird. It's not weird at all, So he's like, "Who are you talking to?"
Scene in the whole episode.
Yeah. It was good, and I like that Gray is sitting there, and of course he can't see him, but Gray's is like, I like this guy.
Well, I think with that, it's interesting because I think there's a sense of he sees a lot of himself in her, and they have a lot of shared or similar experiences. And so I think that really kind of creates a connection with people. We have that now, if you have shared experiences with someone, you're going to connect with them a lot easier. And so I kind of liked that. I really liked that scene, and I liked that, she is kind of this wonder kid. It's almost like having Wesley aboard the Discovery. And I know a lot of people don't like Wesley, but you can I don't care. Because I do. But it's kind of like that, where she's able to do a lot of things that even Stamets can't do. I mean, she mentions, I can help you remove the connectors in your arms. And maybe we don't know if he ever considered that and couldn't find a way to do it. But I thought that was really nice that she threw that in at the end of that conversation. Like, I can help you with those. And that was just really beautiful. And
they're gone. They're gone from his arm. And now he'll be able to interface with the spore drive using programmable matter and not having to actually attach anything from his arm. Will be a game changer for him anyway.
I'm so impressed with Blue something or other. I can't remember.
Del Barrio.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gray, the actor playing Gray. I'm less impressed with him, but only because I don't think they've given him much to do other than just die and then grin.
Yeah, he's only really had a few lines, really.
And so, I freely admit this is more what the character's been given as opposed to what the actor is capable of. But the chemistry between the two of them is fantastic. I love the fact that we are going to see Adira discover their non-binariness. I don't even know what the correct term is. But they really seem to be leaning into the she a lot. And when the character was first introduced and they were saying she, and everybody's like, "Hey, wait a minute! I thought this was a nine." And Blue said, the character is going to come out, you know, and we're going to see that journey. And I love the fact that they're doing that.
Yeah.
But I was, you know, it's very easy, not necessarily Star Trek, but TV shows in general, they tend to tokenize this sort of thing. And I love the fact that they are making it an organic, you know, progression for the character, as opposed to, hey, we've got a non-binary character and everyone's going to call them they, and no one's going to ever be confused. And it's like, they're not, they're following a progression that actually happens. I've seen it in my students. I won't say I lived it because I haven't, but I've witnessed it, and I'm really enjoying this. And I love the fact that, you know, it's a lot of people are having trouble with the fact that Gray is dead. And admittedly, you know, I'm total, you know, I'm cis, so it didn't dawn on me until after I heard non-binary people saying that the fact that Gray is 1, not human, 2, not a main character, and 3, dead already, was a problem. It didn't even occur to me. But then once they said that, I was like, okay, I dig that. But also, we have seen Star Trek, especially Discovery, take the bury your gays trope and totally turn it around. And so the fact that Gray is there and dead but not really dead, I think is really cool. The fact that, you know, I was a little disappointed / puzzled when they killed Culber, and then the same night the producers, you know, the writers were on the ready room going, don't worry, he's coming back. Like, well, then why did you kill him? You know? Yeah. But it's actually playing out. It's you know, they're building on it, and I think that if it's not just we're killing this character to develop another character, but we're killing this character because it's an organic part of the story, which it's proving to be, I'm really along for the ride on this.
Well, the difference is that Gray was not a character on the show except in a flashback. So he died.
That's part of the problem, though.
Yeah,
is that he's Trill, and he's already dead. So it's like some people are seeing it as kind of too little, too late, as far as representation.
Well, we also don't know what they're going to do, because they even called out in the episode. I don't understand how this can be, because I thought that the symbiote relationship was memories, not a soul or something. I don't know either. Yeah. but there he is, you know. So
I'll freely admit I am not the best person to comment on this, but I have, you know, it's interesting that there are. I've heard, like, on other podcasts, I've heard people who are not not binary, and I'm totally messing this up, I apologize, saying this upset me at first, but I'm trusting the writers on this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, for every person that has gone through a transition from a she to a he, or from a he to a she, had to make that transition. I mean, Blue is the actor is it's a they pronoun they use, right?
Yeah.
But that transition had to happen at some time in their life. They were referred to as she, and this is a character that they're playing. So that character is now going through the transition that they've already been through. So, I mean, we're just gonna, hopefully we're gonna observe it happen, you know. So
I think so, and I think it's going to be, you know, something that's really beautiful. And I think with the Gray story, I think that's going to factor into this transition for Adira into non-binary. I think that might be part of that maybe, you know, at this point, Adira still has to process everything that went on, and the abrupt suddenness of losing Gray and taking the symbiote and everything else, I think, kind of threw everything off. And so, you know, in the previous episode, when they went to Trill and she was avoiding that and not wanting to bring forth these memories because the brain tends to protect itself. And in really traumatic circumstances, a person won't remember what happened to them simply because the brain is protecting itself from those memories. And sometimes people do it to themselves as well. And so, I think this whole process of Adira can see gray, no one else can, is going to help transition into becoming a non-binary character for Adira. And so I think that's going to factor in. And maybe at that point, once they reach that point, then gray might not be there anymore, but be that internal voice.
Right.
I don't know.
And it could be Tall doing this itself. I mean, because Adira and Tall were not able to communicate together for so long that now that they can, it could just be that Tall is giving her this vision of gray to kind of be a way for them to communicate, and help her get through this transition of learning to play the cello and all and all the other kind of stuff that she's processing all at once. Did you guys notice the bowl of badges on the planet? And there were badges.
Up. It was hard to ignore.
Yeah, there were badges from just about every era of Star Trek.
And the phaser.
The first contact era phaser was there too. So I gotta say, I loved Linus transporting in and out of places. Just brought a little bit of humor to the episode, and the Empire Strikes Back type scene where Michael and Book are kissing and Linus just appears there like C-3PO
interrupts. He interrupts him. That's the best part ever.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that was reminded of Grig from The Last Starfighter by Linus?
No, I didn't think of that. No.
Maybe it's just the prosthetics. There's only so many ways you can emote through it, but like when he would like show up to places, he would make the same kind of closed mouth, pull his face back, oops, sorry, that Dan O'Hurley he did in The Last Starfighter.
Okay, so I wrote on Facebook.
No, I've never seen it, so
I wrote on Facebook for anybody
as a science fiction fan, you owe it to yourself to watch The Last Starfighter.
Yes. Yeah. It's on the long list.
I'm sure. Also, just I want to point out, when Michael and Book start killing, it's worse than Indiana Jones at his worst. They just don't hold back at all. It's just, they're a murder machine.
Yeah.
And not that it's unjustified, but it's like there's no phasers on stun when Michael and Book start opening fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we mentioned that before. I think in episode 1, they were kind of doing the same thing.
Well, I almost wonder if at this point they don't have that. Like, if you think about it, this isn't necessarily Starfleet. This isn't the Federation. They don't, that was Starfleet, and Federation had phasers that, you could change the levels and start at stun and then go up. Everybody else, it was, nope, sorry, you're dead, or I don't shoot you. So, I think that's where this evolution has come from. I don't think there is a lower setting on any of this stuff. It's just full to the nines, or nothing.
Book's ship is cool, but it gives me a headache to watch it, because it's like I can't turn the ship around. I have to make it do this Rubik's Cube thing to turn itself around. Yeah.
That's what it made me think of, like the triangle pieces and all that.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that it's.
Oh, it looks awesome.
Not the same that we've always seen. And when they're in Starfleet and we see all of the hey, hi John.
John coming in for the last few minutes of the show.
What I missed.
I love seeing the ships that are kind of familiar. I also really appreciate that 930 years into the future, they've got ships that look nothing like what we would assume a ship should look like.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've always thought that, the roundness, I mean, yes, space doesn't necessarily have anything you're pushing up against, but it makes more sense that you'd have more ergonomic machines and ships that would, kind of cut through space. Not this like, I mean, granted, they're not like the Borg cubes, although whatever. But the roundness, I mean, I don't know. That always so like bookship being like that triangular kind of weird shape makes sense in that kind of fashion. If you're thinking about like something cutting through water, but it's cutting through space instead, something like that is going to move a little bit better than something else.
Well, especially since his ship actually comes into the atmosphere, and not like a starship. A starship wouldn't need to cut through the air, but his ship, since it can come into the atmosphere, that triangular shape could help it build speed down there.
Well, it's like the Hugh's ship, Hugh Borg in Iborg.
Hugh Borg
was hideous. Oh no! I'm sorry. It was Descent. It was the first episode of Descent. That shuttle thing. I mean, it was hideous. I hated looking at it, but it was like finally a ship that doesn't look like an airplane.
Right. Yeah. John, what do you think of this week's episode?
I enjoyed it. Let me blast my notes really fast. We need to get to know the bridge crew. Discovery is more plot driven than character. Aside from Michael, Saru, Stamets, and Tilly, we trade plot stories for people stories, like overarching arc. I like the less episodic, but I'd love it if they could tweak the mix a bit. Basically, do for the bridge what they did for engineering. Interesting shot of Giorgio when Michael is convincing her. She's reflected in the wall. Is that a mirror universe reference? Foreshadowing? Is she merging memories with Prime Giorgio? Did you guys talk about that?
No, but I noticed it now that you bring it up.
I didn't catch that. Good call.
I didn't either. Yeah.
Philip Visions, Sand. We'll get back to that, I guess. Osira, new big bad. Osira.
I don't think we'll see her. Yeah. I don't think we'll see her unless she's one of the. No, never mind.
I mean, her name is too badass for her to not see her at some point.
I want to, but they've kind of dangled
blew
this
up her
kind of stuff at
shit
her before.
They jacked up her whole facility. She's gonna show up.
And then Jerry Ryan will show up and blow her up.
Saru, for the record, I do not believe you would have, referring to Tilly. Is Tilly going to be the new number one? Given the characters we really know, she's probably the best choice, but it seems super fast for her to make that rank. We've seen Saru give her props, but not seen her do any command training. Meh. We've seen lots of alien races, but no androids. Does that mean Picard wasn't able to erase the stigma back in his series? Did something else happen in that time? Did androids cause the burn? That would be really terrible. Since they've already been
that's true, but what we've actually seen of the 33rd century is about that much so far. Most of what we've seen on the 33rd century has been on the Discovery. So,
or there's just a possibility that androids have advanced so much that they don't look, sound, or anything other than another humanoid.
Final five. Nice.
Just saying. It's a possibility.
That's entirely true.
I mean, we see it at the end of Picard when Picard becomes, not Picard. He doesn't look, talk, act like an android. That we'd seen up to this point, which was Data and Lore. So there's a very good possibility that the tech is just so far advanced now that you wouldn't even know it was an android unless they told you, and they might not even know themselves.
Because all the versions of is it Soji? All the versions of Soji that we saw, everyone looked less and less android-like as it got until we got to the last one. So
unless what they showed us with the holograms is what is happening with mechanical intelligence all across the board, which was they got so good that that there was maybe a war or something, and now all AI need to be very clearly AI.
It's a good possibility too.
I don't know that. I have no basis for that whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, we did see a hologram, and he was
Well, yeah, all
still.
the holograms were so obviously
Yeah.
holograms.
They had the tinny, like the tinniness in their voice. Mhm.
It was like,
They should have put an H on their forehead.
well, yeah, it was that. It was almost that, but it was very clear that it was a deliberate thing, because I know that there were some people that were complaining after last week's episode. Was it last week or the week before? I lose track. About how artificial the holograms were being, and they were getting in people's faces and stuff like that. And to me, that was saying people are not comfortable with AI seeming totally human, so we're going to purposely make them awkward and not respect boundaries and stuff like that, so that it's totally clear that these are not people.
I put on Facebook for anybody to bring up anything that they wanted to for the show. I got a couple of responses. Boolean said, question. In a galaxy where you have not only transport technology and replicator technology, but programmable matter, how can any gunshot wound that doesn't vaporize you not be easily repairable?
I saw that. I don't understand what he's talking about, because
Well, I get it. I can see what he's saying. So, if the tech is so far advanced, how can people get injured, essentially? And I think that that's something where it still has to be believable. People are still going to get injured. Injuries are still going to happen. I don't think necessarily maybe the medical tech has advanced like super, super, super far, but I can see what he's saying. And it does make sense. Like, why would somebody die from a gunshot wound if everything else is like super snazzy and you can repair things so instantaneously? And maybe this programmable matter does not apply to organics.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe we don't know exactly what that shot was.
Mhm.
Are we talking about the Andorian? Because he survived. He
I assume, but he's not okay.
Yeah.
but, you're not wearing programmable matter necessarily.
Well,
and they were slaves. So even if you could have a vest of this stuff that, like, some kind of armor that as soon as you get damaged, it patches you up, the slaves wouldn't have that.
I don't think he was saying that. I was saying, but if you go to a hospital, I mean, the dermal regenerator times 10.
Yeah.
Why is once every basic medical kit presumably would have something that can fix anything, something short of, decapitation.
Yeah.
What I'm guessing is the point that he was saying.
Yeah, which is, I think, why the weapons that we've seen so far mess you up. So, I mean, most of the people that get hit by an energy weapon so far, like like go back to episode 1, almost everybody that got hit by an energy weapon disintegrated, except for Michael. Michael got hit and she was okay.
What a flesh wound.
Because Book, prayed and brought up a plant and she was okay. Which we still haven't seen what that's about. I mean,
plot armor is strong.
And he also said I think that Saru is one of the most fantastically realized alien characters in Trek. I not only love the look, but the sway in his arms when he walks puts the biggest smile on my face. Yeah, I think he walks like George Jefferson. Add to that his character of
what? Wait a minute. Back that up.
You don't think Saru walks like George Jefferson?
I understand where it's coming from.
Oh, okay. All right. I get you now.
No, he didn't say that. I said that.
No. I was like that. Now I remember. Wait. Okay. I got you.
Add to that his character being the first alien main Star Trek captain that's still green behind the ears and unsure, anxious, and learning the follies of command on the job in an unfamiliar environment and a future timeline, all from a prey species. And then Ollie commented, "Where's the podcast?" Because it was late this week.
Hey, Ollie. Love you, dude.
For those of you who couldn't see what Rick did, you know what Rick did.
I made a gesture that we do not see on Star Trek.
Not yet. That was
if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Tilly, but yeah.
Yeah, Tilly did this week when
I feel like Tilly did, didn't she?
Saru came in and said
I think she
Michael
almost
was missing. Didn't she say like shitty shit or something like that this week?
Yeah. Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
she did
that
show
one.
Yeah.
I think she actually shot the bird
That's-
somewhere.
No.
So I want to ask you guys something.
Okay.
What do you think about this hyper obsession that Burnham seems to have with the burn that no one else really does? Like, she's come forward in time. It's been 120 years since the burn, and she's like super hyper focused on it. And what do you guys think of this? I want to know why it's driving her so much. And like what she thinks she's going to find out. If she does find any information about the burn. And I almost posited too, like maybe she thinks there's something in there about her mom.
I think, well, she has mentioned that she wants to try and find out what happened to her mom, but Michael's just the kind of person that needs to have a problem to solve.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, I was thinking
The
along those
responsibility
same lines.
hoarder, as they put it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
And she can't like. So when she was there, when she got there before Discovery, she couldn't do anything about Discovery. Like
Mhm.
they might never show up. They show up when they show up. But the burn was a problem she could solve, so she kind of put her all into that. That's how I saw it. And now after a year, it has consumed her.
And the fact
as
that
far
she's
as
actually
the-
made a little bit of progress, and because now that she's found this other black box, she may be able to, because she already had two, she may be able to triangulate where the burn originated from.
Mhm.
So
Well, also think about it. I whenever something like this happens, I try to put it into the perspective of us. People get like really upset when there's some nitpicky little canon thing in Discovery.
The heck you say?
Huh?
I don't, but yeah, I get it. I get
No,
you.
no, and,
Yeah.
and I'm not criticizing what you said. I'm just saying that there are times when it's like, how can they not remember this? And I'm like, tell me something that happened 200 years ago about whatever.
Mhm.
And then tell me something that happened 930 years ago.
Hmm.
I kind of get the impression with the burn that the people that live in this time are like, it's okay. Yeah, they ran out of whale oil 100 years before I was born. Oh well, we have to get on with life now.
Mhm.
Right.
Burnham is like, I just left yesterday a world where we could fly across the galaxy in a couple of weeks, and now it takes months to get anywhere. We got to fix this shit.
well,
So
not
it's
just
kind
that,
of
they
like
can-
she's
they
not
can barely-
accepting the reality that she's in.
Exactly.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, they're also there. It's not just travel; they can barely communicate the way
Yeah.
that they could where she came from.
Mhm.
So,
It's like going. It's like it would be like if somebody came into our world after the what was it? It was like 18. There was a coronal mass ejection in the late 1800s that wiped out telegraphs and stuff all over the world.
Mhm.
Fortunately, there wasn't there were no satellites or anything like that at the time, but it was a huge technological problem, but there wasn't a lot of tech to be affected. So the tech
Mhm.
that was affected wasn't that big of a deal. It was like, oh wow, we can't use telegraphs anymore. Well, Pony Express is still here. And I kind of think that's sort of the mindset of the people in this century. They're like, well, nobody alive has ever had effective warp drive or subspace relays.
Hmm.
We're just getting along as we are. And
Mhm.
Burnham's coming in like, what do you mean there's no buggy whip sellers anymore? We've got to get the buggy whips back.
Yeah. And that's I think part of the problem for me with her character so far, outside of like I'm really enjoying her otherwise up to this point, is just this, okay, I get that, she's the hope is there and all this stuff, and you want the Federation back to what it was that you came from. But at the same time, you've got to learn. It's radical acceptance, Burnham. You've got to accept the reality that you're in right
Yeah.
now. And, you can make it better, but I don't think it's almost like she's got this mindset that she's going to, if she can figure out the burn, then she can get Federation and Starfleet and everything back to exactly how it was when she left. And that's not the case. Like, even if you do figure it out, you're still not going to get everything exactly the way it was. And again, you got to radically accept that. So it's kind of irritating. I'm a social worker, so it's just like radical acceptance, Burnham.
Yeah.
Acceptance is not Burnham's long suit.
I was gonna say,
No, it's not.
Can Burnham? She's like Hamilton. Will she ever be satisfied? Really? I don't know.
You don't know. I don't think
know
so.
that, like she was content for a minute, and that didn't work out with her boyfriend / spy killer.
All right, and I've got to say, while generally romance on Star Trek is not my favorite thing, I might have liked it when Burnham and Book finally kissed.
That was a train that was coming. You saw it like miles away. You're just like, okay, really? Just like get it over.
You two spent a year together and didn't bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I liked was that when Saru was having a conversation with Michael, and he demoted her from first officer to chief science officer. She told him, she said, Saru, you're doing the right thing. I mean, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
She never
I was
should have
wrong.
been at the position in the first place. And
I think she hoped it would work.
yeah.
I think she went in with, like sometimes you take a job and it's not a good fit for you, but
it's the job
he
you
was
always
doing
wanted.
I really like the guys I'm working with, and like the pay is
He was
good.
kind of doing a gesture because, I mean, technically in the rankings, she should have been captain.
Well, I think
She's never been command material though.
No,
no. I didn't say she should be captain. I'm saying in the ranking, she was next in line, but even she knew, no, I'm not a captain. So she gave it to Saru. So in turn, Saru was like, okay, well, you be my first officer for this week.
So who do you think Tilly's going to be the new first officer? Did you guys talk about that?
No, I don't. We talked about that a little bit.
I mentioned that. I said that.
I don't think she's ready for that. I
mean,
don't think
honestly,
she's ready for
frankly, it would realistically, I would guess that Starfleet would assign them a first officer, but they would reject it, and the audience would reject it because we want our Discovery crew to be our Discovery crew.
But I think it's going to be Nelson.
Yeah, I think that their first officer needs to be someone from the 33rd century.
She is third in command, and here's the thing I can't figure out about that character. I know that the actress played Ariam in the first season, and then they brought her back, and I have scoured the internet trying to figure out what is the deal with her, because she's not I could see if it was like we had a contract and she couldn't cope with the prosthetics, which is the kind of the prevailing opinion, but there is no data out there. And I totally would get it if she stayed in the background, but she's third in command, yet they're utterly ignoring her, other than Nielsen, you have the comm. It's like, I don't understand. Does somebody in the production crew owe her a favor? Is she a cousin? What, I'm trying to figure out why this person is there.
But I think, if that's the case, if they choose her to be, second in command, to be number one, essentially, to Saru, we'll get that backstory, and we'll get kind of more about her than we have.
I hope so, because either make her a character or don't. But this kind of like halfway is it's frustrating.
I feel like they're going to make her a character. I don't think she's going to be second in command, because we really don't I think this episode was the first one she spoke.
No, she's had like lines here or there.
She nodded. She's acknowledged. But I could as far as the bridge crew, Owa would actually be pretty cool. I think, because I feel like she's the only one that we kind of know that's been on the bridge. I mean,
except we need
the problem with that. The problem with that, though, is she's kind of that tether for Detmer, because Detmer's still trying to process what's happened to her. and her fears of steering the ship. And so if Owo becomes number one and she's off doing stuff and things like that, Detmer is going to slide downhill pretty quick.
Right.
And so I think that tether has to stay there in how it is. And then Tilly, she's just too young. I can see her getting maybe promoted to lieutenant or something like that, but I don't think
Yeah.
she'd get, that's a major rank jump right there. So
My
It's
opinion
kind of a shame they
is
got rid
that
of
I think-
Nan because she would have been perfect.
Well, she
Yeah.
may be back. I mean,
Hmm.
we don't know that she's gone for good. But in my opinion, is that whoever is the first officer should be someone from the 33rd century, because I mean, Saru needs somebody that knows the time period and knows the culture and the people
God,
Mhm.
to be
Willa?
able to give him advice. You know.
could be Willa, maybe.
Willa?
That's
Maybe
what I.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. And that's where I was going when I was saying they could just assign someone.
That
Yeah.
would be
And
interesting because she was
she
such a
seems like
douche.
But maybe
I didn't say
if
she
she
didn't be
joins,
nice.
if she joins the crew, maybe she'll get softened up.
That's
That
TV
would
drama
be-
conflict right there. They get to they get to show her that making ice cream the old-fashioned way is kind of cool sometimes.
That would be fun. Yeah, that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
A view screen, how quaint.
And
All right.
I'm not you guys are exponentially more into the tech of the Trek than I am. I actually squeed when the nacelle split off. I was like, that was my one. They got me on that one. That was awesome. That was very exciting.
So that's pretty much it for this episode. So Haley, thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Why don't you
it's always
let
good
everybody
to
know where they
see
can
you.
let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Trekkie01D. And then when I release episodes, you can find me on Standard Orbit over at Trek FM and over on the Phantom Podcast Network. We're a weekly at this point right now. And then my other show, it's coming over on Trek Geeks.
And also, folks, just in case you don't know, someday there will be a Star Trek t-shirt museum dedicated to Haley. Because you have the best shirts ever.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a problem. I'm always like, oh, I want that shirt. And then I'm like, my drawer is full and I don't have any more room, but I keep buying them anyway.
All right, John, what about you?
You can find my show, Captain Game Show, on the Cosmic Potato Network. It is trivia, it is wordplay, it is improv, it is singing, it is rhyming, it is occasional rapping, it is punnery, it is tomfoolery, it is skullduggery.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
And Rick.
You can't find me anywhere right now except here.
Right here on the Cosmic Potato Podcast Network. CosmicPotatoNetwork.com.
I honestly have no idea where I am, when I am, who I am.
Well, this will be coming out hopefully tomorrow, Tuesday.
Tomorrow. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you don't worry about it. Just
If you click your heels
Look-
3
look
times
me-
and wiggle your nose,
look
you'll
me up
find
in
them on
January.
Facebook anyway.
Keep listening
Facebook and
to
Twitter.
keep listening to Cosmic Potato, the broadcast network, to find the updates about Rick's whereabouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where in the world is Admiral Rick Tatro? You can find us on CosmicPotatoNetwork.com. We will be back next week to talk about episode 7, which is titled Unification Part 3, which is a very interesting title. Well,
Mhm.
Unification
Pointy-eared
3.
folks. Now, I don't know if they're Romulans or Vulcans or both.
Yeah. But we'll talk to you next week. Until then, I wouldn't care about your eyes unless they were dangling from my belt. All right. Let me end this broadcast.